Mental health and warfare. Probably the single most important thing when it comes to being in a combat role. This is what I want to talk about today. I want to share with you guys kind of my background with mental health. It's something that I've gone through on and off my entire life. I want to share how hard it got for me in hopes that I can reach somebody else and they don't feel so alone in whatever they're going through. Also, if you're new here, my AC's broken. It's hot as hell up here. I'm in the attic. It's summer. I'm sweating like a dog. Okay, first thing to start off with, Different Breed is the name of my brand, my business. I started on TikTok and streaming on Twitch. The term different breed refers to the breed of people who have been through some challenges mentally, physically. Maybe they've been through addiction, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and they've either come out on the other side or it's something that they still struggle with and they continue pushing forward every single day. That's a different breed. And the reason I call it that is because if you are one of these people, from across the room somebody else who is the same breed. Someone else who's a different breed you can recognize in the checkout line at a grocery store or at a gas station. Sometimes there's just a connection that you have with someone where you're like, he knows. That's the idea behind Different Breed. That's the brand. I want to let you know that. As I mentioned at the beginning, mental health and some mental health challenges and this mental health journey I've gone through my entire life. I want to give you a real quick breakdown, kind of a timeline, what I went through, a couple experiences, but I don't want to drag it out and do this poor me, I'm a victim bullshit, because that's not the case. I just want to put something out there that's authentic and that people may relate with so they don't feel so alone. Okay, let's go. I was an alcoholic for years, through high school, into college, after college. It got to the point where I was drinking so much that in order to not feel like I was dying the next day when I would wake up, I would start drinking. I would drink sun up to sundown, typically vodka. I primarily drank to suppress this anxiety and depression that I felt when I was younger. I've always had this feeling of what they call depersonalization or derealization, where you almost feel like you're watching yourself through a TV screen or behind a camera. It's this real disconnected, really scary feeling. It's something that I've felt since I was a kid, and as I got older and found substances, I used alcohol primarily to make myself feel better because of how scary that feeling was for me. Fast forward to when I was 21 years old, I was in the depths of my addiction. I was drinking hardcore every single day, and I decided one day, hey, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna stop. What I didn't know at the time was that you can't just stop drinking like that. After drinking so much for so long, if you just quit cold turkey, you will have alcohol withdrawals. I didn't know that. So I thought I was just having the worst hangover of my life for 3 days until I passed out and I had a seizure. I woke up, my roommate ended up finding me on the ground. I woke up to firefighters and paramedics coming into my house, taking me to the hospital. I woke up with my entire family and a bunch of friends from out of state, out of town, all came to see me. And I looked around the room and I realized how much of an asshole I am, how much I'm making all these people worry about me. It's one thing if you don't care about your own well-being, your own success, your own health, but all these people who love you, they do. So I realized I needed to stop being a selfish prick. From that day forward, I have not touched a drop of alcohol. I'm coming up 8 years sober in March and I'm grateful for it. Changed my life. The day I stopped drinking, my life got better. The first couple years after I stopped drinking were a little tough for me. I realized there was a lot of things that I had not worked through or processed mentally that I had just been suppressing with alcohol. So those things ended up catching back up with me after I was sober for a while. Basically put me into this depression, anxiety state for months. It was so bad that I was in bed. I would struggle to get up and go to the bathroom. I lost my job. I wasn't eating. I lost 50 pounds. I just had such a strong feeling of this depersonalization, this disconnected feeling. I just felt like I was in this limbo state. Everything just felt so strange and weird to me. It was a nightmare. Eventually I got to the point where I reached out for some help. I contacted a psychiatrist. They said, hey, try these meds. I've always been against meds, especially as an alcoholic, an addict. I never wanted to touch stuff. So I told the doctor this, hey, don't give me any narcotics or anything I could get addicted to. He said, yeah, don't worry about it. We got this stuff. He gave me some generic kind of Wellbutrin or something. Within a couple of weeks, I started feeling a lot better. It took the edge off of that scary feeling where I was able to actually focus on the problem, start facing the problem. My life started getting progressively better. I ended up feeling like I could conquer the world. I became a firefighter, became an EMT. I went to Ukraine for a bit and joined the International Legion. So mental health is a journey that I've gone through and I will continue to go through. There's ups and downs, and it can be a wild ride, but things do get better, and things have definitely gotten better for me. That was a really quick snapshot of like almost 30 years worth of anxiety and depression journey and story wrapped into maybe roughly 3 minutes. So I know that was fast. Like I said, I didn't want it to be this poor me drama shit. I just wanted you to have a background of what I'm about, be relatable, and also know what this brand is, Different Breed. Different Breed was probably one of the main reasons I ended up going to Ukraine in the first place. I had a strong feeling and calling ever since the first day Putin invaded Ukraine. I believe it was February 22nd of 2022. I knew if I was going to continue with my brand and trying to grow my brand about being strong, resilient, having that fortitude to push on and keep going, this was something that I needed to go do. Put my money where my mouth is, stop talking about it and be about it. Which now kind of ties me into the whole mental health, having a strong mentality going into warfare. Prior to going to Ukraine, I was a firefighter for over 2 years. I also just finished EMT school and my clinicals in the ER for my EMT license. So at this point, I had seen dead bodies, I had seen accidents, I had seen horrible things. I knew how I reacted under pressure, under stress. I knew for me it was something that was doable. I knew that going to Ukraine, if I saw some messed up stuff, I would be okay because I've seen a lot of the stuff already. If I had not had my experience being a first responder, some of my medical experience in the ER, I would not have had as much confidence as I did going to Ukraine. Granted, being a first responder is absolutely 100% different than a soldier. But some of the things that you see that can really mess you up as a soldier, you do actually see as a first responder as well. Also, learning how to work well with a team in a high stress situation, like being a firefighter and working with your fire department and the rest of the firefighters, and being a soldier, learning to work with your unit. A lot of those concepts, standard operating procedures, a lot of those things were actually very similar. Now, my mentality going to Ukraine was almost a selfish mentality. Of course, I wanted to get to Ukraine and help with the injustice that I saw every day on the news since the invasion. But also, I wanted to prove to myself that I'm strong enough now to go do something like this. Go to what at the time, and it still might be, was the most dangerous place on planet Earth, was the eastern side of Ukraine. So I knew this was gonna be just as much of a mental battle as it would be a physical battle. When I first got to Ukraine, I started training. I was in the Legion. I recognized that a couple of guys were there for the same reason. They were there to help, but also they were there to prove to themselves that they could do whatever they put their mind to. I also saw a lot of people there that thought Hollywood movies and video games would be an accurate depiction of what they were going to see in combat and out on the front line in training, blah, blah, blah. Luckily, during Legion training, probably 3 to 4 times a week, the commanders will have a formation with everybody and say, hey, there is no shame in going home. This is serious. A lot of people are going to get hurt. People are going to die. People sitting right next to you. Once you deploy, this is going to be the most dangerous thing you'll probably ever do in your life. So luckily, a lot of these people who had a confusing concept of warfare, after a few of these speeches from the commanders, they realized, hey, maybe this isn't for me. And in some cases, the commanders would see these people and actually approach them and say, hey, maybe this isn't for you. So a lot of respect there for the commanders of the International Legion, not wanting to just throw away some random people's lives. It would have been really easy as a commander to just take these bodies, whether they're ready for combat or not, say, hey, okay, go deploy, go sit in a trench somewhere. But these commanders cared about us. They didn't want to see innocent people not know what they were doing, get into the fight, and never come home. And there's 2 more categories of the kind of people that I would see in International Legion training. You had the career soldiers, people who were in their nations, their country's military for multiple years. That's what they know. That's what they love to do. They're passionate about it and they're good at it. So they came to Ukraine to put their specific set of skills to use. Again, tons of respect. And the last group of people were the killers. People who you could tell they may have had prior military service or, police or whatever it is, first responding service, but they came because they wanted to kill people. These people were flushed out of the Legion just as fast as the people who thought that combat would be just like the movies. They're just as bad, they're just as dangerous. You do not want to be on a team with somebody who is bloodthirsty and their only intention of being there is to kill. Because they're not going to have your back when you get into the shit. They probably won't even have their own back. They'll be throwing caution to the wind because they have one objective, and that's to kill, kill, kill. These people are dangerous. They do not have a place in the military, and they need to seek mental help or be in a prison. Okay, moving forward. I said at the beginning of this video that your mental health is one of the most important things when it comes to being in a combat role or a combat scenario. We have a ton of veterans here in this community, and I thank you guys all for your service, by the way. Really appreciate you guys. All of these guys will tell you, if you're not cleared and squared away mentally, you are a threat to yourself and you're a danger to the rest of all the guys that you're with out there in combat with. There are certain things that you cannot prepare for when it comes to being in a combat position or getting into combat for the first time. When the bullets start flying or the first artillery round lands, you never know how you're going to react until it happens. And there's typically two schools of thought. There's typically two ways that this goes. People freeze up and they get scared. People go into adrenaline mode and they move. That's it. There's no real in between. Understanding this concept and also giving yourself some grace and realizing if you are in this first category of people who freeze up, they get scared when the bullets start to fly, that's okay. Maybe this specific combat role is not for you. Maybe you'd be better as a drone operator, whatever it is. But it's extremely important to realize that and remove yourself from that situation rather than getting yourself hurt or killed or any of the guys that you're with. I have one specific example of how mental health plays a role in your combat effectiveness. We had one kid in our unit who actually was a Marine for a while, and then he was in the French Foreign Legion and then came to Ukraine. Didn't see any combat in either of those two roles, but he was very squared away, in shape. He knew his military. His whole life was military. Well, he was there when a grenade dropped on our platoon commander. Our platoon commander caught a piece of shrapnel through the neck. This kid was near him and was holding his neck, trying to stop the bleeding while the commander died. This messed him up mentally, as it would with a lot of people. It messed him up so bad to the point where I actually took his rifle that evening and kept it safe with my rifle because we were uncertain with his mental state, what was going to happen, what he was going to do. This kid had a rough week or so, but he was able to come back out of it, shake it off. He was okay. Again, you'll never know how you'll react to a situation like that until you're in it. But there are some steps that you can take in order to hopefully produce the best possible outcome mentally. What I mean by that is make sure you're doing the work mentally before you put yourself in a combat situation to where you do have a certain degree of confidence in your mental ability to handle stressful situations. If the most stressful situation you've ever been in was a really intense airsoft match when you were a kid, going straight to Ukraine to fight Russians on the front line probably isn't for you, or at least that's not a great way to compare intensities. Maybe think about a time when you saw a car accident and you went to help somebody and it was chaotic. How did you react in that situation? Maybe there was a different situation where somebody fell or somebody got hurt and you jumped to help, or maybe you froze up. Maybe think about some of these situations. How did you act during that time? Were you more of the person who watches the situation happen, stand back and watch, or did you jump and take action? How did you act? That'll probably give you a good barometer. That'll give you a good temperature check on how you will react when shit hits the fan on the front. Again, this isn't apples to oranges comparison, but it's probably the closest way or one of the only ways that you can determine and predict how you'll react on the front because of how you reacted in these stressful, high intensity, chaotic situations in the past. Having a strong mentality, decent mental health when you go into a situation like this is paramount. It should be on the top of your list, right up there with physical fitness. I've mentioned this in past videos, but do not show up to Ukraine if you have an addiction issue. If you're extremely depressed every single day, don't go to Ukraine. If you're feeling disconnected from reality like I did when I was younger, don't go to Ukraine. There's nothing wrong with any of these things I just mentioned, but get them squared away before you go put your life on the line and other people have their lives in your hands. But not only is mental health extremely important for when you're actually in the shit, on the front, in combat, in training, but also for when you get home. I think a lot of people, including myself, I know I did this, get all mentally prepared and physically prepared for going and doing the job, going and soldiering. Very few people are prepared for when they get home, how they're going to cope with some of the things that they saw, some of the things they may have done, some of the things they heard. And any American veterans will know that PTSD, depression, anxiety, all that stuff is really the main killer of war. I've been home from Ukraine for almost over a year now. I've talked to every single one of the guys in my unit on the phone at least once in the middle of the night when they were having a hard time. Happens to the best of us. Sometimes some of these thoughts and feelings are just tough to shake. So if you're not good mentally, if you're not squared away mentally when you go to Ukraine, and let's say you actually make it home, you're gonna be even more messed up. I promise. I've seen it. I watched it happen. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to the guys that you're out there with. Don't do that to your loved ones. Because if you come home and end up doing something to yourself, your loved ones are going to be torn up for the rest of their lives. So with that said, I know this is a very different video, but like in the bio of my YouTube and in my TikTok, mental health is something I have a ton of experience with. And I figure if I share some of my vulnerable times, like I said in the beginning, maybe people can relate to it. Maybe that's all they needed to hear to stop themselves from doing something stupid. I know in some of my darkest moments when I was younger, sometimes just one word or one phrase or sentence I would hear somebody say in a movie or on a video, it would change my entire perspective on things. Men go through a ton of shit on a daily basis, and most men have a tendency to fight the quiet fight. There's this stigma that society has cast over my generation and older generations. If you're a man who doesn't feel strong mentally, they're emotional maybe, they have some things they need to work through in their head, that they're weak or they're lesser than other men. This stigma needs to be broken. That is not the case. That's why you have so many men taking their lives. These men are terrified to go get help because they think it's going to make them less of a man. It's going to make them weak in the eyes of their children or their wives or girlfriends or parents. So I'll absolutely have more mental health content on this channel coming up real soon, probably tomorrow. Please let me know in the comments if this is anything that you've dealt with, if this is something that may have been helpful for you, and if you want to see more of this kind of content. And I'll leave you with this. There is always, always, always light at the end of the tunnel. Even if you're right in the middle of the tunnel, you can't see that light, it's over there. I promise you. I've gone through it. I've seen it. If you don't believe yourself, believe me. I have seen it. You will make it through there. If you need to talk to somebody, hit me up in my email. I've already had multiple people reach out to me, which I will always reply. I'm open. Hit me up. Whether you're ex-military, ex-first responder, maybe you've done none of those things, and you just need somebody to talk to, hit me up. I'm here. I love you guys. Like, subscribe, comment, do all that shit. I'll see you tomorrow.